제 전부도 님이죠. 돈은 뭐는 전부 나게도 나그러다 감산도 실물도 tum바도 제잔라 기숑서 내셔로 저기 장감서 저것도 기숑로 열라는 지금 반조자라 소라 공주 도반보르 신지로 공주 도반보르 신지로 공주 도반보르 신지로
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching.
Today, we will continue discussing the Shurangama Sutra. Before we begin, let me mention something. Today is Teacher's Day, isn't it? Perhaps Teacher's Day is observed at different times in various countries around the world. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization back in the early 1990s set the date as, I believe, October 5th. But here we usually observe Teachers' Day on September 10th. Whichever date is chosen, they are all correct. I think that on Teachers' Day, on the one hand, we should show great respect to all the teachers who have been kind to us and pay them our sincere respects. This applies not only to our current teachers, but also to all those individuals, both worldly and spiritual, who have graciously and profoundly imparted invaluable knowledge to us and taught us about morality. These teachers, all of them, have shown us immense kindness. Without them, we might have remained quite lost and confused. So today, taking this precious and invaluable opportunity, everyone present should deeply feel and express profound gratitude toward all the truly great and dedicated teachers. It is essential to hold a heart filled with sincere thankfulness and utmost respect for their invaluable contributions and tireless efforts. As for myself, I should also humbly say, this very morning I did a quick, rough calculation, and in terms of teaching here at this institution, it has been approximately 35 years. Of course, for an ordinary, typical teacher, this might seem like a long time. But if we look at it from the perspective of our revered spiritual guru, then our time is actually not long at all, because His Holiness the Guru began teaching at the age of 13 and continued without interruption until his passing in his 70s. There was never any interruption, so it can truly be said that he spent his entire life teaching and nurturing others. Compared to such truly great and profoundly noble deeds, I genuinely feel that whether we humbly call ourselves dedicated teachers or respectfully refer to the many highly learned and esteemed professors, our actual time in this significant role is in reality not that long. In any case then, today is also a day to express gratitude to teachers. At the same time, I hope that our teachers will continue to cultivate talent in the future. And when nurturing talent, it is not only about developing professional knowledge, but even more importantly about fostering profound morality and genuine compassion. People like this, with such admirable qualities, are extremely important and truly essential, because nowadays many of our dedicated teachers simply pass on technical knowledge or scientific knowledge or professional expertise directly to their students in a way that is easily understood. Beyond that, they don't adequately consider the students' present lives or their future lives, which is a significant factor, including their personal lives and daily living, as well as the challenges they will face in the future, such as interpersonal relationships and so on. In fact, all of these essential aspects are also the significant responsibility of the teacher to diligently teach them. So today, on this truly special and memorable day, I also want to say this to all the dedicated teachers who are currently working in this noble profession. You truly are a guiding light, a beacon of hope and inspiration, and also the source of profound reliance and virtuous knowledge for many sentient beings. We often say, what is a teacher like? In the Avatamsaka Sutra, it is often mentioned the sun, the moon, and a merchant leader, as well as a bright lamp, among many other metaphors. Indeed, in our complex and often challenging world, they are truly the exceptional individuals who meticulously guide people toward profound goodness and firmly onto the righteous and correct path, acting as such remarkably insightful and influential spiritual engineers. Therefore, what is even more profoundly important for us to consider is to cultivate true talent, talent with an altruistic mind, talent with a compassionate heart. This is extremely important. I think that whether it's teachers in the secular world or many others, including some Dharma teachers, Khenpos, Khenmos, counselors, and even among our dedicated and devout lay practitioners, there are many individuals who frequently and deeply engage with the profound Buddhist teachings and principles and possess knowledge in this area. So I think that today we will discuss in detail. On this special day, I want to share this with everyone. I hope everyone will make an effort. This is the first thing. Next, we will talk about the Shurangama Sutra. While discussing the profound Shurangama Sutra, I may sometimes utilize certain historical references and contextual details, and sometimes tell some stories. Of course, these stories are not without basis, nor are they unnecessary. I generally don't tell stories of that kind. I always make sure to think very deeply and thoroughly in advance. Whether using my own personal wisdom or drawing on the wisdom of the great masters of the past, and only after careful consideration do I cite them. So for our audience, I truly hope that either you choose not to study, which is perfectly fine. If you truly do want to study and learn, you should listen very attentively from the very beginning to the very end. This is because quite recently, when I randomly selected just a few Dharma teachers, their presentations during the exam were not very satisfactory. For example, yesterday we selected 2 people, but honestly, both of them gave rather mediocre talks. So I specifically picked a topic from later on about Indian Buddhism at that time, and the history that was buried for over 600 years. I explained it very thoroughly in class. But afterwards, after the class has concluded for the day, it seemed that no one really paid much attention. Now, among us Buddhists, there is actually a rather big problem, and what exactly is it? When it comes to topics like understanding the nature of mind, preliminary practices, or methods to counteract afflictions and suffering, people are very attentive, taking notes and focusing on these areas. But as soon as it involves culture, art, or history, or the perspectives of different schools, at that point, some people think, this has nothing to do with my practice. I'm a practitioner. I'm someone who is truly and deeply seeking liberation. I'm about to attain the rainbow body. So, for someone like me who's going to achieve the rainbow body, ancient history is of no real use. Indian history is of no use either. The overall state of Buddhism or its future matters, what exactly do they truly have to do with me? Nothing at all, really. I'm going to attain realization in this very life. Maybe it'll take 6 months, maybe 12 months. So, in such a short period of time, why bother exploring history or delving into human technology and so on? These things have nothing to do with me. But in reality, if you truly can attain the rainbow body and do so in a very short time, then indeed you don't need to study these things. However, attaining the rainbow body is not that simple either, and our practice isn't such that you can simply wish for liberation and immediately attain it. It's truly not like that at all, so sometimes when I speak to everyone, I do so very seriously and with great sincerity, and search for all kinds of different materials available, especially when I talk about things in class sometimes. You might think that this is just a simple story that anyone could find. Actually, maybe anyone could find it, and perhaps these kinds of stories or sources in particular are not found in some of the books we usually read. Maybe you really can't find them. Indeed, including the detailed Cunningham example that I shared with everyone yesterday, which illustrates the fascinating and compelling story of this renowned British archaeologist. I believe that many Buddhists and historians are often completely unaware of this process, because I spent the entirety of last winter, and also when I went to India previously, and then later when I was in Tibet, I gained valuable experiences. I remember it was during these 3 different periods I spent a lot of time and did what could be considered a rather serious study. In the end, all of this time, all of it, was spent carefully verifying everything and then sharing it with everyone. So sometimes I really think that maybe some people just feel like, oh, this story is very simple, but perhaps it's just a story, or maybe for us as Buddhists, it's something we really have to understand and grasp, a truly crucial and profoundly significant historical fact. So, what exactly do I want to convey and discuss with you? That is, for those of us who are attentively listening to this lecture, if you are going to truly listen, you should listen very attentively, because some important things in here, when we listen to Buddhist teachings, it's the same. It's precisely the same when listening to worldly scientific knowledge. For example, when you attend a class, if your mind happens to wander for 5 minutes in the middle, you might miss a very crucial point. And if you don't fully understand this fundamental concept, then a significant portion of the content that follows might not make complete sense to you. For instance, when we begin to discuss a particular piece of history, why do we discuss this particular history? If you truly don't grasp the most critical turning point, if you haven't quite figured that out, then what comes next? It might seem completely unrelated to the whole topic. At times like this, you might find it all very wordy and tedious. That's why when we attend lectures, we often struggle to stay engaged. There's actually a certain pattern to listening to a class. As for the Buddhist teachings, I truly think everyone has probably studied Words of My Perfect Teacher. There is a special section on the rules for listening to the Dharma. These rules for listening to the Dharma are something everyone should follow. Actually, the way we listen to teachings now, truly, if you are a genuine practitioner, let's not talk about anything else, but at least the recitations before and after. And at the end, including the King of Aspiration Prayers chapter, if you listen to one class in a day, and so many people recite it together just once, what merit does this bring? How did past masters explain it? For example, if we have 100,000 people, or even 1,000,000 people, or maybe just 1,000 or 2,000 people, no matter how many people gather, if they recite the King of Aspiration Prayers once, what merit will they ultimately receive? Many of you have heard about this before. This is a truly fundamental piece of essential knowledge. So, on the one hand, we might find that if we recite some other texts nowadays, it might be a bit difficult. But I think for us, whether it's in Chinese or Tibetan, or even in a few other languages, it should all be possible. So unless you have special circumstances, I would suggest that ideally, at the very beginning, when it is precisely 7:30 in the morning, if there are no special circumstances, it's best to participate in the recitation yourself. The merit and significance of reciting in this way are immense. And if there are no special circumstances, no matter what, we basically finish around 9:30. It doesn't take up too much time. Then at the end, we dedicate all the merit, which is a good beginning and a good end every day. Even if you can't perform any other virtuous deeds, I think that the recitation in this class, all the deeds in the class, which is embraced by the three supreme methods, should be very meaningful. This is a brief explanation. I hope everyone pays attention when studying, especially the situation I discussed yesterday about the temporary decline of Buddhism in India, which is also something that many of us here at this moment are considering. As Mahayana Buddhists should deeply reflect upon, the twists and turns of history are also something everyone should consider carefully, as it is indeed a very significant matter. Next, let's talk about the 6 accomplishments I mentioned yesterday. As for the 6 accomplishments, one significant accomplishment is the accomplishment of faith, and then there's the profound accomplishment of hearing, the accomplishment of time, and then the accomplishment of the main deity, as well as the accomplishment of place and the accomplishment of assembly. Yesterday we already finished discussing the significant accomplishment of this particular place. All those sacred sites in India, what Rajagriha is like, what Jetavana is like, we have already talked about these things much earlier on. Now, the last accomplishment is the passage, a gathering of 1,250 great bhikshus. In other contexts, we often refer to this as the perfection of the retinue, which is a significant and essential aspect. But here it is referred to as the assembly of great bhikshus. Generally, there are many types of bhikshus who have overcome delusions, and many other different kinds. The nominal bhikshus, there are various such classifications. But here, it generally refers to those of the Shravakayana, great bhikshus, who have received the full ordination precepts. So, how many are there in total? There are 1,250 people. Actually, these 1,250 people were the retinue that the Buddha often led for a significant period of time. They were his regular and devoted followers. At the very beginning of the Diamond Sutra, which we have previously studied, it also mentions 1,250 people. The great retinue that is mentioned in the Amitabha Sutra is also 1,250 people. This is often the case because for a certain period, the Buddha's retinue was always 1,250 people. Just like in the past, with the esteemed master Vasubandhu, there were times in history when, for a period, his entire retinue was also comprised of approximately 1,000 people in total. As for the Khenchen Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, in his later years, his retinue was basically around 5,000 people. This is also quite clear in many historical records. So here it mentions 1,250 people. Who exactly are these 1,250 people? Some historical accounts also clearly explain this. So who exactly are these 1,250 people? First, there are the three venerable Kashyapas, who were originally non-Buddhists at the very beginning. Later, all three Kashyapas entered the path of Buddhism. The retinue of these three Kashyapas numbered an impressive 1,000. Then there are the highly esteemed Maudgalyayana and Shariputra, each of whom had 100 followers. So that makes a total of 1,200. Additionally, there was a devout layman named Yasha. He was a very wealthy and influential patron at that time. Later, it seems he also became a monk, and then there was, eventually he also attained realization. But this layman Yasha had 50 personal attendants with him at that specific moment in time. There were also Kondinya and 4 others. So in total, the 1,000 people from the 3 Kashyapas just mentioned, plus the 2 venerables, 200 people, 1,200, then adding Yasha's 50 people, and including the 5 bhikshus, the grand total comes to 1,255 individuals. However, it is generally observed that in the sacred scriptures, the specific number of these 5 particular individuals is typically not explicitly included. So, it is said to be 1,250 people. This was at that time the Buddha's retinue for a certain period. They should be considered his followers. Now let's talk about this here. How did the Buddha win over the 3 Kashyapas at that time? I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, so I'll just say it now. When the Buddha had just recently become a monk, King Bimbisara, upon seeing the Buddha's truly dignified and majestic appearance, was deeply impressed and moved by his serene presence. And at that time, because the Buddha had not yet attained enlightenment, he said, "If you do not attain complete and perfect enlightenment in the future, and instead become a powerful king, it would be best if you come to my country. If you were to become a king, I could certainly serve as your loyal minister and help you diligently handle all important affairs. But if you have already attained your goal, Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, then you must come to my country to liberate the sentient beings here." At that time, King Bimbisara said these profound and significant words to the Buddha. Later, after the Buddha had fully attained supreme enlightenment, he personally came to King Bimbisara's royal palace, which should be Rajagriha, this ancient country. At this particular time, the Venerable Kashyapa, who was a non-Buddhist ascetic, the elder Kashyapa and his 2 brothers, there were 3 of them actually. The eldest was quite wise. He used to be a non-Buddhist ascetic. At that time, he had many devoted followers. Moreover, he was the esteemed royal preceptor of King Bimbisara. At that time, Buddhism had not yet been firmly established, and he was indeed the royal preceptor of King Bimbisara. Buddha enlightened. When he arrived in this country, he engaged in some dialogues with the elder Kashyapa, and during these conversations the elder Kashyapa developed great faith in the Buddha and very much wanted to take him as his teacher, his guru. But later, he considered and thought that perhaps this wouldn't be entirely appropriate. So he said to the Buddha, "You should leave quickly. If you stay here any longer, since I am the royal preceptor of King Bimbisara, if I become your disciple, I forget thought or said aloud." In any case, what he meant was, you should leave quickly otherwise. If I am to become your disciple, in his heart he really wanted to follow the Buddha, but if I become your disciple, then all my followers will leave me. And how will I truly receive offerings in the future? So he respectfully asked the Buddha to depart from the area as soon as possible. At this point, the Buddha said, "May I stay here for just one night? I can leave, but as long as you don't become extremely angry, is it all right if I stay for just one day?" Then Kashyapa said, "One day might not be possible, because we have a very poisonous Naga living here indeed. This poisonous Naga doesn't even let people stay for a single day." But then he said, "As for the poisonous Naga, it's not that frightening." The Buddha said, "I have already subdued the 3 poisons. This is truly nothing to be afraid of." Then, at that very moment, the Buddha manifested 18 incredible miraculous powers and successfully subdued the evil Naga. When the evil Naga was finally subdued, Kashyapa and his devoted followers, upon witnessing the Buddha's miraculous and divine powers, and seeing these manifestations of the Buddha, at that moment they developed tremendous faith. Later they attained the fruition of arhatship, all 500 of them, right there on the spot, that very same night. Not only were they subdued, but they also attained realization. Then as for his 2 brothers, each had 500 followers. These 500 followers also took refuge in the Buddha. Later, they too attained realization. So in a very short period of time, all 1,000 of them not only were completely subdued and brought under control, but they also profoundly attained full realization. So Kashyapa's disciples were gained in this specific and particular way at that precise moment in time, whether it was the Buddha himself who gained them, or more generally speaking, in such similar cases and instances, the disciples of Maudgalyayana and Shariputra. At that particular time, Shariputra was also a very famous and well-known non-Buddhist teacher. Moreover, the 2 of them had a particularly close and significant relationship. They both said to each other, they were both non-Buddhist practitioners at the time, when they had a mutual agreement between them. Whoever attained some realization or fruition first would inform the other. Their relationship was indeed very good and harmonious. Later, once when the venerable Shariputra went out for a while, he saw the venerable monk Ashvajit. Upon seeing his dignified and noble appearance, he was deeply impressed. He couldn't help but develop great faith. So he asked Ashvajit, "Your conduct, your demeanor is so dignified and graceful. Who is your teacher? What dharma do you practice?" Then Ashvajit replied, "My teacher is Shakyamuni Buddha. The dharma I practice is this. Whatever phenomena arise from causes, those phenomena also cease due to causes. The Buddha has explained the causes of arising and ceasing." He said, "This is indeed the dharma I practice." At that moment, Shariputra developed immense faith. Then the venerable Shariputra and his devoted followers earnestly began to practice this dharma. Then he thought, it wouldn't be right not to tell Maudgalyayana. They had made an agreement in the past. So he told Maudgalyayana, "There is someone whose teacher must be truly remarkable indeed, a master of profound wisdom and spiritual insight. And the dharma he gave me is also this teaching, whatever arises from causes and conditions. So how about the 2 of us go together?" Then the venerable Shariputra and the venerable Maudgalyayana, along with all their 200 devoted disciples, respectfully went together to earnestly seek out and see the enlightened Buddha. After receiving the profound dharma, they attained realization. They attained the fruit of arhatship. This is described differently in various scriptures. Then, in the Vinaya Sutra, this verse was, "All phenomena arise from conditions. The Tathagata has explained their causes. When the conditions end, so do the phenomena." The great Shramana taught this. This is what we often recite, which is stated in the Vinaya Sutra. We printed this before. It was a large Thangka of Shakyamuni Buddha. Below the Thangka, there were Tibetan, Chinese, and English versions of all phenomena arise from conditions. The Tathagata has explained their causes, which is what we often quote. In Buddhism, we often recite these profound and meaningful verses. Actually, if all phenomena arise from conditions, then our dependent origination mantra is also about this very concept. In Sanskrit, the profound verse about all phenomena arising from specific conditions in Sanskrit is this dependent origination mantra. So when we usually perform consecration ceremonies, many rely on the principles of causes and conditions. When we pray, we recite such principles. Actually, this already profoundly explains within itself that what is the main difference between the Buddha and any worldly sage or wise person? What indeed is its main characteristic? It is the teaching of the law of dependent origination. All phenomena arise from various conditions. In the conventional world, as long as the causes and conditions are fully complete, everything naturally arises and indeed ceases due to these causes and conditions. But ultimately, all phenomena are free from the four extremes and 8 elaborations. This is the principle taught by the Buddha, which should be something that among all teachers of gods and humans in this world, no one else has ever spoken of. That is why it is called the foremost among all teachings. This is the reason for that. I just briefly mentioned earlier whether it is the perfection of the retinue or the perfection of the place or the perfection of the assembly, the 1,250 people or the 5 bhikkhus. These have also been discussed in our other commentaries. These were the retinue that the Buddha often had with him at that time. As Buddhists, we should also be aware of this. No matter which teaching we are discussing, we should know this. During that period of time, these were indeed the Buddha's retinue. We should understand it in this particular way. Next, we will go over the preface section. It talks about many venerable arhats and also mentions some bodhisattvas. What kinds of merits do these enlightened beings possess? Here the text describes their merits. Compared to some other sutras, however, compared to others, its language is very beautiful. However, it's not always that easy to fully understand when reading it. The content itself may be quite difficult to comprehend, because most of it is written in 4-character phrases. In this particular case, sometimes we might, especially if our classical Chinese isn't very strong, find ourselves struggling. Find that some parts are not as easy to comprehend as the Tibetan language or as other languages might be. The Tibetan translation, for example, should be relatively straightforward and much easier to grasp and understand for a wider audience. So, what exactly does it say next, and how does it continue from here? It talks about the undefiled great arhats. As for defilements, there are those of the desire realm, the form realm, and also the formless realm. But all these afflictions and outflows are gone. They have already attained the state of an arhat who has destroyed all afflictions. They have already attained arhatship. Of course, arhat, as we discuss in the Abhidharmakosha and in other texts as well, has already been explained. Generally speaking, a great arhat actually refers to a great bodhisattva in this context. Sometimes the Buddha can also be called an arhat, because an arhat is one who has destroyed all enemies. What are these enemies? They are the thieves and demons of afflictions within our own mental continuum. So, those individuals who have completely destroyed all afflictions and are entirely free from any outflows, such great arhats are all precisely like this. Now, what about the people who are mentioned in the following sections? Bodhisattva heirs who uphold the Dharma and excel beyond all states of existence. Here, when it says Buddha's heirs, it means, as in the world, everyone has, for example, a father who possesses his own unique family lineage, and if this lineage is passed down directly, thereby continuing the family line, then naturally one would sincerely hope their son becomes truly successful. He has a direct family lineage to inherit. Buddhism is the same way. The Buddha passes the Dharma to his heirs, the Bodhisattvas, and the Bodhisattvas pass it on to the next generation of all noble and enlightened beings. This Dharma lineage is faithfully passed down through the ages, continuing without any interruption. In this way, they are truly called the Buddha's spiritual heirs. Here, the term Buddha's heir can also refer to Bodhisattvas, because Bodhisattvas are truly the mind-born children of the Buddha. Shravakas can also be accurately called the speech-born children of the Buddha, because they attain profound realization by attentively hearing the Buddha's sacred words. These Buddha's true heirs are the steadfast upholders, upholders meaning, as we often say, abiding firmly and securely in the spiritual realm of the Dharma king. Having mastery over the Dharma, so what do they uphold? They uphold the teachings. They constantly abide unmoved within the state of the Dharma, and they continuously uphold the realized Dharma. So here, when it says the Buddha's true heirs are indeed the upholders, that is to say, all the bodhisattvas below, without exception, must both profoundly inherit the sacred and unbroken lineage of the Buddha, and also deeply abide in the truly realized Dharma, constantly and diligently propagating the profound and transformative teachings of the Tathagata. So now in Han Chinese regions, the highest spiritual leader of a typical monastery is often called the abbot of the monastery. As for the term abbot, actually, in Tibetan areas and elsewhere, this title is relatively rare. But in Han regions mainly, why is it specifically called abbot in this particular context? Because as a true abbot, one truly abides in the profound Dharma oneself, and when one genuinely abides in the Dharma, one continuously practices diligently and constantly spreads the sacred teachings. Such a person indeed is rightfully called an abbot. For example, in the past, in the Chanlin Baohun, there is a passage that mentions 3 things an abbot should not do. There are 3 do-nots for an abbot. Do not fear when matters are many, do not seek when there is nothing to do, and do not argue over right and wrong. As an abbot, one should not be afraid of trivial matters. Since you are an abbot, there will definitely be many trivial matters. If you are especially afraid of trivial matters, it's best not to become an abbot, otherwise there will definitely be matters concerning lay practitioners, matters concerning monastics, all sorts of different issues. Secondly, if there are no major matters, don't go looking for minor issues every day. Don't create problems when there are none, spending all day doing so. Some abbots lack a sense of proportion, ignoring major matters and focusing on minor ones every day. In the end, they become especially troubled and eventually leave. And then there's also the issue of being unable to distinguish right from wrong. After all, in a monastery, it's normal for there to be some minor disputes. You should be wise, yet appear simple-minded. Don't take every matter to heart. Some of our Dharma teachers are like this too. When they first become Dharma teachers, they are overly particular about everything, crying one moment, making a fuss the next, and when they're happy, they're over the moon, saying, "Today our talk was especially good." Then in another moment, just like me, I wasn't very satisfied with yesterday's talk exam, but I was quite satisfied with the previous 2 days. If I feel that the talk went a bit better, I sleep very well at night. But if the talk doesn't go well, then I really don't. I think I've said so much, yet you can't even tell such an important story properly. Yesterday, while taking the talking exam, I kept diligently looking all around, carefully eavesdropping everywhere, just to see if anyone had truly and completely grasped the intricate story I had told. Only one lay practitioner told it a bit better. It seemed like he understood it a bit more deeply. As for the others, sometimes maybe they hadn't gotten to the later part yet. So when I came back, I still felt still quite caught up in judging what was truly right and what was truly wrong, something along those lines. If that's truly the case, it's probably not very good at all. If we don't do these three absolutely essential things, you could also reasonably say that if you successfully accomplish these three essential things, then you absolutely won't be confused by external things at all. This is very crucial. Whether we're promoting Buddhism now, or, for example, some people might be abbots of temples, some are not abbots of temples, but still take on the significant responsibility of upholding the Tathagata's teachings and shouldering the Tathagata's important family business at this crucial time. On one hand, I think this is also a key point, that for some minor and relatively insignificant matters, it's truly not worth wasting valuable time on them for long, but it's also absolutely not okay to be completely unconcerned or entirely indifferent. The most important thing is that some activities to spread the Dharma and benefit all sentient beings must be given significant importance. So sometimes, whether it's a temple or our associations or centers, when effectively managing these situations, a lot of experience is needed, and it's also very important to grasp the right balance. You can't make a big deal out of every little thing, immediately expelling someone or taking drastic action. That's not right either. If something is truly serious, you also can't just keep enduring it. There's no need for that either. So a person's wisdom is indeed very important. Many of us now, even though we may not be called abbots by title, are actually doing the important work of an abbot. For example, in some temples nowadays, if there are only a few monks, a few ordained people, then being the abbot is actually kind of easy. It's not especially exhausting. But if there are more people, then, for example, each class's Dharma teacher, he should be considered an abbot. And in various different geographical places, the leaders of Buddhist organizations, they also count as a particular kind of abbot indeed. In these situations, when it comes to management methods, it should be that on one hand, you need to put in effort yourself, and on the other hand, you truly and deeply need wisdom. Indeed, there are real differences in people's wisdom, even if it's the same two people dealing with the same matter. Someone with wisdom can rely on skillful means and expedient methods, and in the end, handle things in a very reasonable and appropriate way. But if someone lacks wisdom, in the end, everything turns into a complete mess, with nothing having a clear beginning or end. And both oneself and others end up deeply saddened. It can turn out like that. So I think all of us should, especially now as we promote the authentic Dharma in various places or when managing teams, we must make an effort to learn more and not always think, I'm so-and-so, I'm really remarkable. Actually, we shouldn't think like that. We should always reflect and learn with genuine humility. In this way, every single matter becomes a valuable opportunity for growth and understanding. A very valuable experience for us. Once you have gained experience, you'll certainly be able to accomplish many significant things in your life. At that time, just as Mifam Rinpoche said, if your wisdom hasn't matured, if your age hasn't matured, if you lack sufficient experience, then the things you do later on, you may even mock yourself for them and find them to be especially ridiculous. You might genuinely think, what I did back then was truly laughable and quite absurd. You might wonder, how could I have been so foolish at that time? This can happen. So in many aspects, as a leader, here the Buddhist disciple as a leader, of course, it's talking about great arhats and great bodhisattvas, but we, as followers of the Buddha, can also each have the responsibility to uphold the Dharma in our own way. Then, skillfully transcending all existences, what does this mean? It means that these bodhisattvas all, of course, some commentaries say that the following refers to the merits of arhats, and some, because many of these here have already surpassed the level of arhats. So what exactly should be skillfully and excellently transcended truly and completely in all aspects? All existences, the three realms. If you further divide the three realms, there seem to be 25 types of existence. There are 14 in the desire realm, then 7 in the form realm, and 4 in the formless realm. Altogether, there are 25 types of existence, because if we divide the three realms in this way, there are indeed many categories. This kind of division is also found in some other commentaries. It's also explained this way in the Great Buddhist Dictionary. The meaning is, all of these have already transcended the three realms indeed.
Because for arhats and bodhisattvas, they definitely will not be tainted by the three earthly realms of existence. If one has not eliminated the defilements of the three realms, then it would be impossible to attain the fruition of an arhat or a bodhisattva. That's how it is. So what comes next? Being able to manifest dignified and honorable conduct in various lands, in different lands and diverse cities. For the benefit of sentient beings, they manifest their own dignified conduct. In different countries, among different humans, and in front of various sentient beings, these dignified and respectful manners that profoundly benefit all sentient beings are extremely majestic, serene, and gentle. When such profound qualities appear, they possess the ability to completely eliminate the suffering and afflictions of those sentient beings. This is precisely as it is stated in the revered Vimalakirti Sutra. Even without ever emerging from their deep meditative absorption, they are still capable of displaying all manner of dignified and appropriate behaviors. While abiding in the meditative absorption of cessation, there is no need to come out of it, and even without emerging from this meditative state, at the same time they can manifest all sorts of activities, walking, standing, sitting, lying down, as well as various dignified manners, all of which can benefit sentient beings. Or we could say that our dignified conduct through the three doors of body, speech, and mind all follow in accord with sentient beings, bringing them benefit. What exactly is this talking about? It's about dignified conduct. Next, regarding the aspect of wisdom, it explicitly says, from the Buddha turning the wheel of Dharma, skillfully and carefully entrusted with the precious legacy. Here, it refers to following the Buddha, and then turning the Dharma wheel. As everyone knows, whether it's an arhat or a bodhisattva, they follow the Tathagata and then turn the Dharma wheel. As for turning the Dharma wheel, it is skillfully entrusted as a legacy. Here, the term legacy does not necessarily mean what we usually refer to as a will left behind when a person passes away. It's not necessarily that. What it truly and fundamentally means is, in essence, that when turning the sacred Dharma wheel, the true wisdom is passed down from one generation to the next, much like one lamp lighting another. In this continuous way, this invaluable wisdom is effectively transmitted. So, what exactly does it say in the ancient Tibetan language? From the turning of the Dharma wheel, profound wisdom is expounded. In other words, if there is such a significant wisdom, it should always be taught and shared with others. Because when wisdom is taught, it can help to eliminate many of our unwholesome actions. For example, as mentioned in the treatise on the accumulation of Bodhi resources, it also says, follow the turning of the supreme Dharma wheel by the Buddha. So what is the function of turning the Dharma wheel? It eradicates all evil thorns and is the treasury of merit for bodhisattvas. This means that after turning the Dharma wheel, it cuts off and completely eliminates the evil thorns within our mental continuum. So what are these evil thorns? Evil thorns are things that are unwholesome, but you pretend they are dharma. Things that are not precepts, not part of the Vinaya, and you pretend they are precepts. Or whether it's from non-Buddhist traditions or even within our own Buddhist tradition, all sorts of improper behaviors that increase greed, anger, and ignorance. All such negative actions are called evil thorns. Eliminating these kinds of negative actions or evil thorns is precisely the treasury of merit for bodhisattvas. Therefore, skillfully and truly effectively turning the Dharma wheel should be considered as truly the most important thing to focus on. And so for us as well, it is important that we should endeavor to learn much more from the truly great masters of the past. This is also my suggestion when we are studying the profound Shurangama Sutra. I sincerely hope that everyone present here, since nowadays a lot of valuable resources are quite accessible. If you're interested, you can look them up online or you can print them out as well. And in various bookstores, especially Chinese language materials, are indeed very convenient and readily accessible to obtain. In this way, at least you should read through at least one or two comprehensive commentaries completely from beginning to end. This thorough approach is exceptionally important and highly beneficial. Some specific materials may not be found now. I originally went to actively look for them, just like the esteemed Master Wei Chue we discussed yesterday. This is because, regarding Master Wei Chue, as we discussed yesterday, that Manjushri Bodhisattva, the enlightened one, merged into his mouth. After finishing composing the treatise, Manjushri Bodhisattva had already departed, so every word and sentence of his Blessed by Manjushri Bodhisattva, I really wanted to read this particular book. Last night after I went back, I've been trying various different ways and searching a lot online to find a solution, but in the very end it truly seems that Wei Chue's treatise has already been lost, it's no longer available. The profound commentary on the Shurangama Sutra is already gone. As for Elder Master Zuyun's commentary on the Vimalakirti Sutra, that's also lost. It was already gone by that time. During Yunmen incident, it seems it was already lost by that point then. Perhaps all of his Dharma texts were already gone at that time. Actually, these items should have been blessed by the revered bodhisattvas, and this is especially true, I believe, if it was indeed the work of Wei Chue, because Wei Chue was undeniably the very first scholar in the illustrious Tang dynasty, quite possibly the first to write a commentary on such important texts. I see that nowadays, many scholars often take the 127 from each dynasty, one by one, in a detailed manner, and start arranging the catalogue in order. When they arranged it, the very first one is prominently listed as Wei Chue by name. After Wei Chue, there are Zixuan and several other individuals. However, Wei Chue's original work is unfortunately already lost. In the end, these collections include the commentary of Mr. Nan Huaiqin. Among so many commentaries, I think if we refer to other relevant and related texts, there are certainly some inherent difficulties that can arise. So since we use a kind of wisdom passed down through generations, either we use our own, which should be a very sharp and profound wisdom to directly and thoroughly comprehend the teachings of the Shurangama Sutra. If we don't have this ability, then how did the great masters of the past interpret it? That's also very good. I have something truly special for everyone. I took photos of the materials I read. I have about 20 of them. There are several comprehensive materials available concerning the profound Shurangama Sutra. Let me show them to you. I need to take a sip of tea.
如果有时间，最好多看一下蓝眼睛的各种不同的相机。我想在这里好多蓝眼睛的书啊，本来想好好的看一下，但是时间还是有限的。这个是寒山大师的，还有欧益大师的，玄幻上人的，然后元印大师的，还有什么蓝怀进的，就好多那个大德们的这些注释。如果有时间多看一下好不好？不要自读一个蓝眼睛，多看一下其他的版本，好不好 ？OK， 拜拜。
This is a selfie. A lot of people really like doing this nowadays, right? Next, let's talk about passing on this wisdom. We still need to put in some effort, otherwise just relying on this alone. I still want to require everyone, at the very least, if you study quite well, at the very least, you should also look at other materials. If you have the ability, you can still do it yourself, but if you don't, including all of the lecture notes we've made, it's truly best to thoroughly review them yourself whenever it is possible, because from our experience, our entire lives have been spent dealing with the sutras and various treatises. So if you haven't read any of it at all, apart from gaining the immense merit of listening to the Dharma, basically you won't gain much. So please pay close attention to this important aspect. Next, let us now talk about strict purity and discipline. Just now we talked about wisdom, and before that, the deportment. Now moving on, strictly pure Vinaya, a perfect model for the three realms. Strictly pure Vinaya means being rigorous and absolutely pure. Vinaya refers to the sacred precepts, which are extremely pure and unblemished. Just as it is stated in the praise of the Buddha's deeds, in the vast wilderness of samsara, the sacred precepts are the very best guide. In the expansive wilderness of our cyclic existence, when the Tathagata was present in the world, he was the supreme guide. When the Tathagata is not present, the precepts serve as the guide. As for these bodhisattvas, they all uphold pure precepts. And then, to be a model for the three realms, being a model for the three realms, means becoming a guide for humans, gods, or the three realms. Whether we call it being a model, whether as a model, an example, or true role model, or as a paragon of upholding the true Dharma, to promote the true Dharma, to be a model for the three realms throughout the entire three realms. A long time ago, when I was teaching either the treatise on the modes of being or the Bodhisattva's way of life I mentioned, we talked about Hunfan Sanji, muddling through the three realms of existence. And there is a story about Hunfan Sanji, which I will share here. I have told it before, don't know if you still remember it. The story of Hunfan Sanji is about a particular man. Here is Hunfan Sanji, to promote the true Dharma and become a teacher for all beings in the three realms. This is Hunfan Sanji, which is often mentioned in the Han region. But there was a man. He aimed to Hunfan Sanji. Actually, Hunfan Sanji, getting by and finding food everywhere is not bad either, because in the three realms you can find food wherever you go. Some people here can't even get a meal. If they have lunch, they truly don't know where their very next meal will come from in the afternoon. That's really quite tough, right? So in that particular case, of course, I think for those of us here, not staff members, some cook for themselves, and doing it all by yourself can be hard in terms of living conditions nowadays, no matter where you are. It seems like there aren't really people who can't afford to eat, not among practitioners, nor among lay people, even including some people outside now who go out for alms or do all kinds of things. Some say that Tibet is especially poor and that many people are starving to death now. Actually, that's not the case in Tibet either nowadays, whether it's in Tibet or in Han regions. There really aren't any people who genuinely can't get food or simply can't afford to eat. This kind of situation basically doesn't exist, unlike in Africa or in some specific places in certain Arab countries, including when I went to Cambodia. If comparing those places to here, over here, getting 3 meals a day is definitely doable, but getting by in all three realms is another story. So what does it mean to get by in all three realms? In Master Tangshu's recollections of shadows and dust, there is a captivating story that unfolds. This narrative takes place at the historic Jinshan Temple, situated within the ancient Han region, which was not considered a very large monastery. There were some monks living there, and there was a shrine keeper who was a particularly slow-witted person. Some people even called him the precepts master. And at that time, I'm not entirely sure if it's still the case now, usually on the 6th day of the 6th lunar month, they would traditionally call it the sun-drying festival. This was a time when a lot of moldy scriptures and clothes, which had been stored away, were brought out and laid out under the warm sun to dry. It was indeed this kind of sun-drying festival, and at that particular time, because the shrine keeper was rather slow-witted, many of the young monks would often tease him and play mischievous tricks on him on purpose. Then one of the wise monks thoughtfully said, "Today is indeed a very special festival. You should carefully take all of the sacred offering candles and gently lay them out under the warm sun to dry thoroughly." The shrine keeper thought this was correct because everything else was being dried in the sun. So the candles he had lit in front of the Buddha, these candles were not like the ones we commonly have now. Nowadays, many are made with various chemicals, some of which might not even melt properly under the sun. But back then, all the candles were made of oil. He left them out in the sun for an entire afternoon, 3 or 4 hours, just drying them under the sun. And as a result, they all melted completely. There was absolutely nothing left except for just a few wicks, but he thought this was actually a good thing. Later, he gathered up the oil in the wicks and brought them back. When it was time to do his evening practice, he tried to light them, but when he tried, they just wouldn't light at all. At that moment, there was a chant leader who saw this, and he really couldn't stand it. He thought this person was just too foolish. The next day, in front of the assembly of monks, he used some truly skillful and remarkably tactful words to say, "Shrine keeper, your wisdom right at this moment is actually quite good. So in that particular case, if you were to stay in our small monastery, it would be a waste of your talent, which isn't ideal. I suggest you go where Master Dixian is, in a place in Wenzhou, where they are cultivating talents for spreading the Dharma. They need people there to propagate the Dharma, to benefit both humans and celestial beings, and to set an example for the three realms. It's a place of great significance. It would probably be best for you to go there. You really shouldn't just stay in a small monastery like ours. So this shrine keeper, he felt especially grateful to the chant leader. The chant leader actually wanted to expel him, but he thought, the chant leader is so incredibly compassionate and truly kind to me. I absolutely must go to Tutu Monastery. I really have to go there without fail, and I will do so very soon. I absolutely must go there to study the teachings. I truly want to muddle through the three realms. He thought that setting an example for the three realms, Hong Fan San Jie, meant muddling through the three realms, Hun Fan San Jie. He didn't hear it clearly. So he always thought that it was just like that. He was especially grateful and very happy. Then he left that small monastery. After that, he arrived at Master Dixian's monastery, known as Tutuo Monastery. First, the guest monk courteously received him upon his arrival. When the guest monk received him, he explained his whole story. He said, I came here specifically to study. The chant leader told me to come here, that I should study and practice well here, so that in the future I can truly benefit all people and the gods, and indeed muddle through the three realms. When the guest monk heard this, he thought for sure that someone had tricked him into coming, but at that time, Master Dixian had instructed them that no matter what kind of monk it was, they could all stay in this monastery. They couldn't be expelled lightly, so in the end there was no other way. So he was then brought before Master Dixian. Master Dixian also attentively listened to his detailed introduction. He once again told Master Dixian, I must study here. He said that in a small monastery it wouldn't work. I am truly a person of exceptionally great talent. Then in front of the esteemed Master Dixian, he also confidently said, I want to make a living within the vast three realms. Master Dixian replied, For now your studies can certainly wait. Take your precious time with your studies for now. First, do some hard work. He was then subsequently assigned to work in the bustling kitchen area, but he actually did a pretty good job at the chores. Whether it was sweeping the floor or washing vegetables, cooking meals, cleaning out the animal manure, carrying water or washing dishes. He could do anything, and he was especially capable indeed. After some time had passed, Master Dixian let him begin learning some initial and fundamental lessons, specifically the 5 daily practices. Later, he was asked to study the Shurangama Sutra and the Lotus Sutra. At first, he was extremely slow, reciting word by word. He was just like Chudapantaka. He simply couldn't recite well or learn well. He was really struggling. But gradually, little by little, he actually started to learn quite well. Then the master asked him to memorize by heart. He diligently memorized the entire Shurangama Sutra, then proceeded to memorize the complete Lotus Sutra. Later, he was asked to commit to memory Master Uyi's commentary on the Shurangama Sutra. There was a lot. I just brought it up earlier. Actually, content in Master Uyi's significant work is not very easy to understand, because it was from the Republican era, but indeed within it, there is still a lot of literary elegance. Then, this commentary on the Shurangama Sutra, he memorized the entire thing as well. And when we used to study the Lotus Sutra, it was also the comprehensive meaning of the Lotus Sutra, which is also by Master Uyi. He memorized all of it. In the end, these 2 sutras, plus 2 commentaries, he could recite all of them backwards and forwards. Truly impressive. And at that time, he was called the assistant lecturer when some of the masters were absent. He would step in, just like our assistant Dharma teachers, and directly give lectures on the sutras. His lectures were exceptionally good, because at that time it seemed as if he had already attained the samadhi of speech, unlike how he used to be kind of clumsy and awkward. Oh, and there's one more thing. At that particular time, the Kanta said to him, you should go to the Tutuo Monastery to study and learn. And after you successfully finish your comprehensive studies and truly become a great Dharma master, I can serve as your cantor. That's precisely what he stated at that particular time. I just forgot to mention that earlier. Later on, he became more and more well-known in that monastery, because for the 4 major sutras, including the Lotus Sutra, he had memorized all of them exceptionally well and was extremely proficient in their meanings. Moreover, great wisdom suddenly manifested within him. But he had one particular habit, which was his work in the kitchen. He still wasn't willing to give that up, so he would often go to the kitchen and do all the hard work there, just like that. He would often wear an apron, do these chores. Then people would say to him, you should go give a Dharma talk now. He would immediately change out of those clothes, put on his 3 robes, and then go up to the Dharma seat to teach. After finishing his teaching, he would come back down, never letting it interfere with his hard work, nor did he ever neglect the work he had committed to out of devotion. In this remarkable and significant way, he became increasingly and widely renowned. Later, the original cantor probably felt quite embarrassed as well. Moreover, he also developed faith in him. Originally, he had already promised, when you go over there to study, he would become the cantor. Later, those individuals who used to tease him all the time back then also came to him to confess their wrongdoings and express repentance in front of him. When he was transmitting the Dharma, the cantor really did serve as the cantor at that time. He had said before, "When you become a Dharma teacher, I will become your cantor." At that time, he said this in order to expel him. In fact, he had already been truly expelled. But indeed, just like many great masters from the past have done, it was also analyzed that people often called him something like sun-dried wax. The sun-dried wax monk, the monk who dried candles in the sun, was a common moniker. This was not considered a respectful term for him at all. In fact, it should be considered a mocking nickname. However, later on, many people began to feel that his wisdom was truly quite remarkably profound. Later on, it seems that when he was around 50 years of age, it was then, he went to Nanjing to spread the Dharma together with Master Dixian. He was also fully aware of when he would leave this world. He manifested parinirvana at approximately 50 years of his earthly existence. He did not live a very long life. When he relied on Master Dixian, he was about 30-something years old at that time. Later, when he was in his 30s, he memorized the Lotus Sutra and the Shurangama Sutra. So, as the ancients said, sometimes when it comes to putting effort into studying the sutras and treatises, there is still a certain significant difference compared to people nowadays. Nowadays, if you were to ask someone to read a few commentaries, no matter how many times you might ask them, they might not actually truly take it in at all. They just let it go in one ear and out the other, which isn't good at all. We should, like in those days, whether just getting by and surviving in the three realms or spreading the Dharma in the three realms, at that time it was truly already. When he had become such a great Dharma master, there was probably no problem at all with making a living, right? Next, let's talk about, just now we discussed precepts and spreading the Dharma. Now we'll talk about compassion. The emanation body is limitless, liberating sentient beings. He manifests all kinds of forms because as an arhat, he might also be able to manifest in such ways. But mainly it's the bodhisattvas who manifest countless, boundless, and infinitely diverse forms in front of all sentient beings, and then liberate countless sentient beings. This refers to throughout all the worlds in the 10 directions, he manifests such emanations to liberate sentient beings, saving those in the future, helping them transcend all worldly afflictions. This is about liberating sentient beings in the future, because these sages are actually able to, when sentient beings in the future experience suffering in samsara, if they feel pain, all of these are beings who have already been rescued from samsara, and then help to transcend worldly afflictions. Worldly afflictions here refer to the sufferings of samsara. The afflictions of samsara, these pervasive sufferings and dissatisfactions, are all worldly burdens. Through this practice, individuals are helped to leave behind all the inherent sufferings of samsara. This approach represents the method for benefiting all sentient beings in the future. In other words, so what exactly are the characteristics mentioned above? Now, regarding the following arhats, which arhats are there? Today, I only talk about two of them. One is the greatly wise and sagacious Shariputra, and the other is the venerable Mahamaudgalyayana. As for all the other topics, we will discuss them in the next class. So what is Shariputra like? Shariputra is actually foremost in wisdom. He was a disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha. In most traditional paintings, he is usually depicted on the right side. According to the Shurangama Sutra, his wisdom is boundless, and he skillfully resolves all doubts and uncertainties. This refers to the venerable Bhikshu Shariputra. He is indeed the foremost in terms of wisdom and understanding, and is able to dispel all doubts. Why is he called Shariputra or Sariputta? His mother was named Shari. In ancient India, many people were named after their mothers. His mother was called Shari. Why was she called Shari? It is said that Shari is a kind of bird called Chiulu. It seems to be a very sharp-eyed bird with very distinct black and white eyes. Such a kind of beautiful, feathered, flying bird. His mother had especially, in fact, many Indian people have quite beautiful eyes because her eyes were just like the exquisite, unique eyes of the Shari bird. So his mother, at that time, people often called her Shari, her given name, because her eyes were somewhat like those of the Shari bird. So, as for her son, it was for this very reason that he was indeed called Shariputra. This is the true origin of the distinguished name Shariputra. He was remarkably eloquent and possessed truly great wisdom. As mentioned in the Ekottara Agama Sutra, what about Maudgalyayana? Maudgalyayana was foremost in miraculous powers. When it came to displaying supernatural abilities, he could manifest all kinds of miraculous feats. In depictions of the Buddha, he is often shown standing on the left side. The Ekottara Agama Sutra explicitly states, with his supernatural feet, he could effortlessly rise, lightly fly to the 10 directions. This truly is the great Bhiksu Maudgalyayana. So, whether in this world he could display all sorts of truly miraculous and astonishing powers, this is the great Bhiksu Maudgalyayana. So how did Maudgalyayana get his name? The entire Maudgalyayana family was widely said to be rishis. They mostly lived in the mountains and followed a vegetarian diet. There was a tree called Kulyuta. Kulyuta is actually the name of a tree. His parents, in fact, when they were old, still had no children. Since they had no children, in the end, they went in front of that unique tree, the trunkless tree. They prayed in front of that trunkless tree. After their earnest prayers, the deities responded with divine intervention. Subsequently, they were blessed with a child, and that child was Maudgalyayana. In Tibetan, we call him Maudgalyayana's son. It seems that both names have the meaning of son. Previously, when we discussed the Vimalakirti Sutra, I also mentioned this. Why is Shariputra named after his mother, and how did Maudgalyayana get his name? As for Maudgalyayana, some books often say that his mother was also called Maudgalyayana. In Tibetan, there's a son suffix. In Chinese, it seems only Shariputra has the son suffix. But actually, in Tibetan, both are called with son. His mother was named Maudgalyayana. So Maudgalyayana might be like this. The trunkless tree, it is a tree, maybe the reason for this tree. Because of his later birth, there might be a reason. Perhaps his Muga, Maudgalyayana, Muga and Maudgalyayana in essence mean the same thing. Perhaps, as some sources suggest, his mother was called Muga or Maudgalyayana, and he was Maudgalyayana's son. In Chinese, it seems that many translations don't have this son suffix. Only in Tibetan is there the son suffix. But I think it's also because of his mother that he was given such a name. These two were indeed the foremost in wisdom and foremost in miraculous powers among the Buddha's disciples. There were also other noble ones present at the time, great arhats and great bodhisattvas. As for these teachings, we will be introducing them to everyone in the very next class.
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye